talked last month about a little bit of a dip in our average sale price. It dipped below the 400 mark, but it has come back up with a 27% increase year over year.
We just want to discuss one other opportunity that we have currently on the market.
This would be a great opportunity to buy something under that $300,000 mark and to be able to rent it out for $1,500, $1,600 plus utilities.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and we're back talking about Chatham with Kelly-Anne Dane Appleton, and really excited to jump into today's episode. I know they've got some stats for us. We're going to be talking about the rental market, so what sort of rents can you actually get? They're going to show us one of their properties as well. They've got a property in Chatham that we're going to actually be exploring that is for sale right now. But before we jump into all that, hey, Kelly-Anne, Dane, how's everything going?
Hey, Matt. Great. Thanks for having us on again.
Awesome. Well, I know last time people really loved the episode where we dove a little bit deeper, or you guys dove a little bit deeper with Adam Martin into some of the neighborhoods and just kind of what to expect and some of maybe the more areas that investors are drawn towards. So know that was popular. People really want to hear what's going on in your market, what sort of deals are available today. So do you guys want to jump into it?
Yeah. So we'll start our presentation here. We're just going to start off with a few just general stats just to catch up on the market here.
So we talked last month about a little bit of a dip in our average sale price. It dipped below the 400 mark, but it has come back up. So when you look at the year over year, June 2020, our average house price was just over $322,000. And June of 21, we are at almost 410, which is closer to where we were in April. So things have kind of bounced back a bit with a 27% increase year over year. And we also just looked at the difference between May and June. So in May, as I said, we had dipped to about that 390 mark. And then back up in June to 409 or almost 410. So that was a 5% increase in the month. I think we just had a bit of a dip in May. We definitely had more inventory in May, I think, which really caused that dip. We've also seen that inventory continue into June. So we're at a much better place as far as inventory goes right now.
Gotcha. And so are you guys starting to see that spill over into negotiations as well? Are you able to have some clauses in your offers, and do you have to scramble the same way as a few months ago?
Yeah, we're seeing that almost the return of the conditional offer as the norm. There's still lots of firm offers that are being thrown out there, cash offers, but at the same time, on our system, we're starting to see, conditional or properties that have gone conditional, and sometimes we're seeing multiple conditions. I would say that, regularly it's maybe just a financing condition if it's going to be anything. But I know that in the last little while, I've seen financing, insurance inspection, financing inspection. And when we were in the hot market earlier in the year, that just would not have been acceptable to a seller with all of the firm offers that they were getting. And that just kind of leads us into, I know that last time we were talking about that we didn't know whether there was a bit of a softening that was happening in Chatham-Kent. And the numbers would kind of suggest that we've had a bit of a bounce back. So we're not sure if it's just a little blip in the system, and then we're just coming right back up, or whether that's a sign of things to come. There's been some mixed results in Chatham, and there's certain asset classes that we just haven't seen do as well as maybe before, whereas there are certain properties that just seem to do really, really well still.
Yeah, we've had In that, I'd say in that 400 to 500 range. We've had experience with 2 of those listings now where they just didn't do as well as we expected. We didn't get multiple offers. There's a lot of inventory in that price range. So though that price range is not really doing as well as it did, but we're seeing some of the higher end properties that are doing really well, which is kind of surprising. Obviously, that first-time home buyer market, that 200 to 300, 200 to 350, still really strong.
Yeah.
Still seeing multiple offers in that, going quite a bit over asking. We're actually going to talk about one of the properties that we had on the market last time we chatted and what it sold for, just so you can kind of see how those numbers are shaping up.
And so on those higher end properties, I'm just curious because I know one of the pet theories that I hear from a lot of Southwestern realtors as well as investors is the thought of people from the GTA relocating as they kind of adapt to the more virtual workforce. Do you think, is that part of the reason why those higher price points, or any pet theories that you guys have in regards to why the higher end of the market's doing well?
Well, I mean, we certainly see people from out of town coming to relocate to Chatham, but I would say that we haven't seen that nearly as much in the last few months, as opposed to when I think the first time that we were on here, Matt, we were talking about how many ends there were in that month from out of town realtors, and it was quite staggering. And I don't know the specific numbers, but I'm positive that number has certainly gone down just from seeing it on a day-to-day basis, that out-of-town realtors are not selling as much in this market right now. Gotcha. And I know that from, we have a listing right now that's would be considered a luxury property in Chatham-Kent, and I'm pretty sure it has not even been showed by one out-of-town realtor at this point. It's been all local interest.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people that are coming from those bigger centers, they can see, that if they're selling their place for 1.5, you can still get a great property in Chatham for between 5 and 6. So why spend that 800,000 or 900,000 when you can maybe pocket $1 million? So I think that the out of town buyers seem to be going for those, I would say that 400 to 600, the ones that we've worked with anyways, and what we've been seeing from the sales and the out of town agents, it's mostly in that price range.
Gotcha. Appreciate the perspective.
So now we want to, I know that last time we talked about some of our favorite areas of Chatham to invest in our not so favorite areas. And
all right. Well, now I'm on my seat's edge because I'm wondering if I own any properties in these neighborhoods.
Well, I'll tell you, I own one in our not so favorite area. So we're going to talk about that.
So we actually have 3 properties that we're going to go over. One is in our not so favorite areas, and then 2 are in our more favorite areas. So this was a little pocket of Chatham that we had talked about last time. It stretches between 3 streets, Lorne Ave, Gray Street, and Pattison. And we just know that there's some factors that come into play in those streets that we don't necessarily love, but there are certain areas on the street that can still be suitable. And we have a direct example of something that my mom owns, a duplex that is in a better area on Lorne Ave that we think is still suitable for investing.
Gotcha.
So my husband and I own a property, and we've owned it for, I think we're on 3 years. So it's right on the corner of Lawrence, right at the edge of that area. And we wanted to really kind of show you what some of the market rents were earlier on. What you're going to find in Chatham is there's a lot of great duplexes that are way under rented.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of one. So when we bought this property 3 years ago, the upper tenant was in place. We have since every year upped the rent by what we were allowed, but he's only paying $480 plus utilities. He's got a 1-bedroom and a den. It's a good unit, like very clean, well done. And then the lower, we actually put that tenant in place. And 3 years ago, that was market rent, about that $675 plus utilities. She's got a really nice 2-bedroom unit, full use of the basement. Both of these have laundry in the basement. She has a little kind of patio area. So that's what the rent was at the time. Now, those rents, obviously way below market, but that 2-bedroom unit now would probably rent for at least, I would say, about 1,000 plus utilities now.
Yeah.
So just wanted to kind of give you a sense of, this is probably in a bit of the, what you would call the lower end rents. But this is, there are still some good properties in that area. Just you have to be careful, because there's also some real garbage in there that you would want to stay away from.
And so when looking at, because this is definitely something I've heard before when it comes to Chatham, is there are a lot of duplexes and triplexes in the city, and oftentimes you do find below market rents. Are you finding a lot of investors, when they come in, are they willing to just accept that? Are they trying to negotiate for vacant possession or an empty unit? Any experiences there?
Well, I know that some of the people that we've worked with and talked to have, obviously the preference is to have vacant units, so you can do your renovations and set your market rents. But in Chatham, there just aren't many rental units available, and there's almost no vacancy. And the tenants who are in place that have affordable rents, they just don't want to leave, because the market rents elsewhere are too expensive. And so, we are seeing that most of the time a seller who's a landlord is saying, I'm not willing to provide vacant possession because, these tenants just have nowhere to go. That's something that we're always looking at, and always very, very understanding and sympathetic to that fact as well, that there's not a lot of vacancy in Chatham, and it's simply people just need a place to live, so they can't go anywhere.
Right. So for investors to come in, and we've sometimes had this happen, they want to write the offer with vacant possession. It's almost impossible. If you've got two units that are with these kind of rents, you can't get these people out, because, as Dane said, they have nowhere to go. And we really, especially because Chatham's a smaller place, if a landlord or if a new investor is trying to get people out with, let's say less than ethical
methods,
practices, there's a really good chance you're going to be found out in Chatham. Because lots of people talk, and many of the tenants now are a lot more educated, because this is happening a lot in Chatham. A lot of investors are trying to, because the market's hot, they're trying to get rid of properties. And I think the tenants are just a lot more educated, and they just don't have anywhere else to go, as Dane said.
Gotcha. So if an investor is looking to do for cash for keys, obviously it's a lot more expensive than it would have been a few years ago. And then just all this being said, for a new investor looking to jump into a market like Chatham, I'm guessing that a vacant unit, when the property is being sold now, probably sells at a premium compared to an existing tenancy.
Yeah. And again, a good example is, Matt, the first time that we were on here, we talked about a vacant duplex that my clients bought. They paid a premium for that, but at the same time, the numbers made way too much sense because the market rents have gone up so much. They were nice units. They didn't need a ton of work, and the cash flow was there, but they did have to pay a premium up front but it just still made too much sense in the long run.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing is that I think there's some, investors who are saying, I'm willing to take these lower rents because eventually, hopefully, there will be some turnover. Like, for example, this unit, this property here, we know that the upper tenant, he's older and he has bad knees. He's not going to be able to stay there, and he's told us that. So once that turns over, this is going to become, a much more valuable property. So, okay, we'll go on to another area. So this is an area that we like, and Dane and I both own properties in this area. So we just wanted to talk a little bit again about what we're getting for rents. This time we're talking about a single family. Actually, one's a single family that Dane owns, and one is a semi-detached that I own, which have both been rented within the last year. Mine's been a little bit longer than a year, but just to show you what you can get for rents. And these are now, as far as today's dollars, these would be under rented still at this point because they've gone up a lot in a year.
So this the one on the left is the property that my wife and I own. So it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom bungalow on Sunnyside Ave, and Sunnyside is kind of parallel to a bunch of streets in that area that we like. And we rented this property in, February of 2021, and has a full unfinished basement, but it has laundry in it, good for storage. And it's relatively small, has a detached garage though, nice backyard. And we rented it for $1,450 plus utilities. That's per month. And we had a ton of interest on it at that time. And people were telling me, that I can't find something cheaper than this. And, at the time we were coming from rents that weren't this high when we were investing prior to this. This is the biggest monthly rent my wife and I have on a rental, and to see how the market has just blown way past this is crazy to me. But we have a great tenant in here who takes care of the property. He loves it. And it's just a good example of a property that was relatively affordable when we bought it. And then it rents very well in a great family neighborhood and is in really good shape.
And then we have a semi-detached just in the same area, right around the corner. And we bought that last year, had to do a whole bunch of work to it. But it rents for $1,300 plus utilities. If we were renting that today, we would probably look at $1,500. So rents have gone up that much just in the last year.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then we just wanted to talk about kind of what you can expect, because some of the investors that have called us, obviously one of the first questions is, what are the market rents? Important to know. And as I said, these have gone up unbelievably, really, since over the last 3 years. So for a 1-bed apartment, we're looking at about $1,000 to $1,200 inclusive. We just rented a really nice 1-bedroom in a nice 6-plex for $1,075. 2-bed, we did the plus utilities because a lot of ours are plus utilities. So $1,000 to $1,200 plus. 3-bed, $1,200 to $1,500 plus. And then as far as single family homes go, and there's a lot of people that are looking for homes, as our prices go up in Chatham, there's fewer and fewer people who can afford to buy here. So they're being kept in the rental market, which is why our rental market is still so strong. So for a 2-bed, you're looking at anywhere from $1,200 to $1,600 plus utilities. For a 3-bed, $15,000 to $22,000. And then, if you've got a really nice kind of luxury, you're looking at, I'd say, $22,000 to $26,000 plus utilities. So really our rents are not that much lower than you would see in some of the bigger cities, which obviously makes Chatham attractive to invest in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys really hit the nail on the head there, that the last year and a half, just the gap between markets, I think, really has shrunk from a rental price perspective, right?
For sure.
Because here in London, that 2-bedroom plus electricity apartment and like a purpose-built building, we're renting ours out for kind of the 1,500. We do lightly furnished for 1,700 a unit, and so again, just kind of on the higher end of the ranges that you guys are showing here.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would add that in terms of houses, people are, I would say that some investors are seeing those as a bigger opportunity than any of the multifamilies, because a lot of times they're seller occupied. So you're going to be getting it vacant. If you want to do some painting or some new flooring, do your renos, your strategic renovations, and you can get that market rent that you're looking for. Whereas, when you're looking at multifamilies, most of the time there's no vacancy, and the numbers are the numbers, right? And you don't have a lot of say in what you can do. Whereas with bungalows, 2-3 bed bungalows seem to be the hottest commodity right now in terms of rentals, because they're affordable and they can be updated, and the rental rates on them are so good. So the housing, the single family houses seem to be a bit more popular now, whereas before I think a lot of people were looking at multifamilies, but because of properties being under rented, investors are looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I think there's a big advantage there that could be easy for a new investor to overlook, that you really laid out well there, Dane, which is, a lot of those single families, the semi-detached homes, those are owner occupied, meaning we can immediately generate that tenant turnover. And then I think the other aspect too, and this is more just my own pet theory here, but when looking at markets like Chatham, I think if we continue with the sort of market that we've seen in the past, if we continue with the same sort of monetary policy from governments and central banks, I suspect we're going to see a lot of pressure on the floor prices of houses there. Like, I just think we're going to see a lot of people competing with FOMO, right? They're scared that they're never going to be able to own a home. They want to own a home rather than wait for the perfect home. I think that means that the lowest cost inventory is going to see a lot of pressure. So I agree that that's one of the opportunities, I think, in Chatham that we'll continue to see investors want to flock to.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And so just to give a little bit of perspective here, there's a property that we had sold that fits into the mold of what we were just talking about, but I'll let my mom go over it.
So, this was a property that actually I had sold to this seller. They had used it as an investment property. They were getting 1068 plus utilities. They had owned it for 4 years, I believe. We listed it 219. We had, forget how many offers did we have?
5 offers.
5
5 or 6 offers.
Yeah, 5 or 6 offers on it. And it sold for 285. It was a 3-bed, 1 bath. It did need some updating. The tenants had been a bit rough on it. It had a partial basement. It was on a very big lot, a lot and a half, in not a bad area at all. So it had lots of potential. And it ended up selling to somebody who was going to occupy the home, a first-time home buyer. So the tenants obviously have to leave. But if you can find something like this that doesn't have tenants, this would be a great opportunity to buy something under that $300,000 mark and to be able to rent it out for $1,600 plus utilities.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys breaking this down for us. And I'm sure some people at home are really curious. So the list price was $220, sold for above that. Did it end up selling kind of where you guys expected it to land?
Yeah, we had expected that it would sell for that. There was a comparable property on the street that sold for $280 in the last month, and we expected that we would fall somewhere in that range. And we got a good offer from a first-time home buyer who was thrilled to get the home. But this is a good example of like a 3-bedroom bungalow, one of the kind of in-the-pocket type properties that a lot of investors are looking for, that they fall into a specific price range a lot. Like the last one we talked about last time was a 2-bedroom bungalow that was recently updated. It sold for $285,000. This is a 3-bedroom that needed a little bit of work, but had a nice lot, $285,000.
Yeah.
It's not a hard and fast rule that it's going to be $285,000, but a lot of times you're going to see something like a bungalow like this that can easily be rented. This one can't be, but easily rented for $275,000 to, anywhere up to maybe $325,000, somewhere in there, depending on the quality. And if you're looking at running numbers, somewhere in that range is oftentimes going to be a pretty good number for you to use for your projections. So just wanted to give everybody just an example of a property that we were talking about. And then we just want to discuss one other opportunity that we have currently on the market. It's just outside of Chatham. So it's at 25646 Winterline Road in Grande Pointe. So Grande Pointe is just outside of Chatham. I would say it's probably about between 10 to 15 minutes outside of Chatham.
Gotcha.
And this is a triplex with 3 high-quality units. So we have a 2-bed, 1-bath, another 2-bed, 1-bath, and then there's a third unit that's a 1-bed plus den. She's using the den as another bedroom, but it doesn't have a window in it, so technically we're just calling it a den. And these are really nice units. We're going to go over some of the pictures just to show you that there aren't many investment properties in Chatham-Kent right now that are of this high of quality. So there's also an unused storage shop at the back that is being used by the owner. So once it's sold, the owner is going to be taking all of his stuff out of there. And we think that it's untapped potential right there. It's a really big storage locker that someone who has tools or just needs a storage space, it's probably bigger than a storage locker that you'd find at a storage facility.
Yeah.
And I think that you could charge a similar rent on something like that because the tenants don't have access to it at this point. You can generate more income. And as investors, we're always looking to see, is there any other avenues that I can take to squeeze out of this? So, and then lastly, you'll see that there's great cash flow potential. We really love the numbers on this one. So we'll go over some of the pictures. So you can see from the outside, it's a pretty big building. There's 3 units, and the main unit is very big. All of them have in-suite laundry, which is a huge plus.
Yeah.
All of them have central air, another big plus for rent. They feature the amenities that tenants will pay a premium for, or that you can charge a premium rent for.
And this is also, when we say it's outside of Chatham, there's a lot of people that like to live in the country. And this is basically a little bit of country. So it's, a 10-minute drive to Chatham, but it feels like you're in the country. And, the owner of this property has said she's never had a problem renting it. It's always been full. So there are people, I know some investors are a little leery of getting outside the city of Chatham, especially when they think of Chatham as a tiny little place.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a market for this kind of a unit, for sure.
And so you can see from some of the pictures, like in the top right there, that's the main unit. It has a really big open concept living room and kitchen, which is really, really nice. Some tall ceilings there too. And then the other pictures are from one of the other units that, really bright and airy, well done units. Like this is a turnkey building for sure.
Yeah.
There's nothing that needs to be done. Even, the paint colors are very modern and neutral. Everything looks really good, and the tenants have taken really, really good care.
It looks like great tenants are there.
We were really impressed when we saw it. Really good tenants in here.
So now we'll break down some of the numbers here.
So we've got it listed at $499,900. The gross rental income, we have included $250 a month for that storage space. It's almost like a garage. It just has a smaller door. So we've included a potential rent of $250 a month on that.
Gotcha.
So we didn't include any vacancy, and we didn't include management in here. We just did some rough numbers. So obviously an investor would have to look at their own numbers. So we've got a, income of 40,800. And then the taxes here are only $21.48. They've got the insurance at $18.24. It might be a little low, but that's what it's insured for currently. And then we've got all of the utilities. They are all inclusive. They could be separated if somebody wanted to. And let's just flip. So the total operating expenses are just over $10,000. And then when we look at, so what we've done is we've just we ran it at 2% interest, and we've got an average. The profit per unit is $360 with a monthly cash flow of $1,000. So we think it's a pretty good. And here's just the final numbers with just over a 6% cap rate. We think the numbers are pretty solid on this one. I know, as I said, there's maybe some fear from investors of being right outside the city, but I don't think that's a concern at all. I think it's a solid building that is going to continue to perform really well. So we just wanted to kind of present that option.
Yeah, appreciate you guys breaking down the numbers for us on this, because I know people always love just seeing that example laid out. If you guys don't mind, let's jump back to the first slide for a second. I just wanted to leave it there just so that anyone that wanted to jump a little bit deeper into the numbers. Yeah, that's perfect. And then again, this was at current rents that you've put everything together at. So that's with the existing tenants.
Yeah, that's right. So everything is plus utilities. I think everything is inclusive of utilities.
Yeah, but this is with the existing tenants that are already there. So
the only thing added, as I said, Matt, was that storage space of $3,000 a year, which we think is definitely doable. But yes, those are current rents.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. And then, so obviously people can leave it to themselves to put in whatever they want to put for their maintenance or management fees. And so just because we were talking about rents earlier in the episode, for perspective, are these at, market rents these days? Would you say that they're a little bit below market rents for this property? Just curious for the investor looking at this, what's the status of that?
I would say that 2 of the units are at close to market rents. Like it would be in the realm of what we'd be okay with.
Yeah.
There's no complaints there. It could be a bit higher, but we're not complaining about it. The one unit is I think it's at $850 inclusive.
Yeah.
It's the 1 bed plus den. And we think that, it's still a really nice unit that has in-suite laundry. It's got an upstairs bedroom. It's got a nice, bright and airy living room. And we think that unit is probably a bit under rented. But other than that, the other units are well rented, and the tenants are all high quality tenants. So that's really what you're looking for as well.
Yeah.
Really good tenants in there. A lot of times we tell investors, you can take one unit that's under rented if the numbers still make sense, which we think they do. You have tenants who are caring for the property and making it look this good. We as investors will take that all day.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for someone that was maybe looking to invest from out of town, finding a nice turnkey property, looks like it's been well maintained over the years. That can really just add that kind of certainty when you're first jumping into a new market.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, again, really appreciate you guys breaking down for us everything going on in the Chatham market and walking us through kind of step by step a potential deal that people could actually pull the trigger on today, July 2021 in Chatham, because it's so rare. I get so many comments these days on my older videos like, sure, you could get that cash flow in 2018, 2019, 2020. But in fact, if you are looking, if you know what you want, there are still opportunities out there in the market to find cash flow, but it's probably going to be in markets like Chatham or Sarnia or Windsor, rather than necessarily the Londons or Woodstocks or Kitcheners that maybe 4 or 5 years ago you could get cash flow with.
For sure. Yep, we agree.
Awesome. And then one last question I just want to ask before we wrap this up. If someone was interested in jumping into a property or a project like the one you guys just showed us, you guys do have a full team that you could recommend to them if they need a property manager or a contractor or lawyer in regards to just their professional team in Chatham?
Yes, we have all of those contacts. Being investors ourselves, we certainly have a good Rolodex of people.
And people that we trust too. And those are the only people that we're going to be recommending to our clients, are the people that we would work with ourselves.
Awesome. Well, if you guys at home watching this want to get in contact with Kelly-Anne or Dane, we're going to have a link to their contact information in the video description down below. Really encourage you guys to reach out. And as we've mentioned in the past, it's so important you start these relationships with your potential realtor as an investor, before you're about to submit the offer, because you want to build a little bit of rapport. You want to give them perspective in regards to what is it you're really motivated or looking to accomplish as an investor. And I always love working with realtors that are actually investors themselves. They just get it so much more than, your brother-in-law or sister-in-law. They may have good intentions, but if they don't have the experience to back up the investment side of the real estate, it can be really easy to get hijacked by emotions if you don't have an investor realtor in your corner. So just really appreciate you guys sharing your experience and perspective on the Chatham market, and looking forward to chatting with you guys next month about the Chatham real estate and everything that's going on.
Yes, thanks so
Matt.
much. Thanks so much for chatting with us.